3, 2, 1.
Welcome. We are back tonight. Another issue of Blue Collar Green Pockets. We're doing the auto mechanics division tonight. We've got Billy Harrell coming at us with Priority Chevrolet in Chesapeake, Virginia, and Sean Kipper. He's with Navac Europe, and he's the fleet manager of the Navy for Europe. Coming at us from Italy tonight. 2 a.m. He got up just to come out and talk to you folks. So we're going to introduce Dave Jones again, as always, the Godfather, and then Chuck Wilson, the Guru. So we're just going to jump right in. Sean, you got up a little early, so we're gonna hit you first.
Oh, thanks.
First
Sean,
of all,
Sean's got a ductless unit right behind him there, Chuck.
Yeah, I see that.
See on the wall.
So Sean, talk to us real quick. What you do with the Navy, or for Navac, I should say. How you got into auto mechanics, the schooling, all the good stuff. Start from the beginning.
Okay. I went in high school. I got into the VOTEC program, auto mechanics. Did that to my junior and senior year. Started out doing that.
That was
then
VOTEC,
from there,
free education, right?
Absolutely.
I eat lunch with that big boy every day.
So from VOTEC, worked in the real world for a little while, working, different places, automotive mechanic stuff. Then I felt a different calling, went in the Marine Corps, spent 8 years in the United States Marine Corps, but I was a diesel mechanic in the Marine Corps. So I stayed in the mechanical field. I had a lot of training doing that. Once I got out of the Marine Corps, I got hired on with Caterpillar. I worked for Caterpillar for probably about almost 8 years. I was a shop mechanic, worked my way up into the field service, worked in field service for years, working on anything.
Sean, was that on big trucks? What was that on? Or boats? Or what?
Heavy equipment, anything that Caterpillar has that's pretty much yellow, that plays in the dirt, I worked on, from your small, anything for doing, backhoes, excavators, all the way up to D11 to 777 off-road dump trucks. I worked in the coal mines in West Virginia, Kentucky, stuff like that as a field service technician. After that, I was able to get into working for the government. Was a automotive mechanic for the government for a couple of years and progressed my way up into supervision. Became a first line supervisor, pretty much a floor supervisor, then a first line supervisor, a division head, and then now where I'm currently now, I am the fleet manager of Europe for the Navy. So any of your wheeled assets that are non-tactical vehicles, I oversee the procurement, making sure the installations have the vehicles to meet the mission requirements.
How many vehicles is that over there, Sean?
Roughly 2,600 right now, and we're still growing. I have, in certain areas, probably close to 300 vehicles that we're contracting out right now because we can't keep up with the mission requirements of certain customers. The United States Navy, well, the government, period, we have certain interests in different countries, and so things change, and we're always moving forward to, as I would say, helping the warfighter on the ground. But to go back, like working, from when I worked for Caterpillar, I probably had close to 75 formal schoolings that they gave me free education. And we're talking advanced diesels, advanced hydraulics. They break you down pretty much the basics. The dealership I worked for, they didn't care where you came from. You could say, hey, I have 20 years of experience. They had a core group of classes they would give you. It was 5 classes, and it was basic down to basic math, to measurements, because they wanted to build that technician that they needed. And then from there, you progress to advanced hydraulics 1, advanced hydraulics 2, and then you would get any kind of new equipment that was coming out. They would have you have formal training on that. So being the dealership, you needed to be able to work on that brand new piece of equipment. And it's not like it was 30 years ago where you can just, oh, I can just work on anything. You have to have a laptop. You have to be able to communicate, you know.
Yeah, we're going to get into that technology. I want to get Billy in here and get him introduced too. Let him get going. But before I get to Billy, just a quick question. Is it true these days you get more chili than grease on your shirt?
Billy,
come on, talk to us, bud. What you got? How'd you get into the automotive?
Actually, it started when I was a kid, 13 years old. I built a small block Chevrolet at the age of 13, you know, and it all started from there. Of course, I did the same program, VOTEC, in high school, junior and senior year.
What year did you graduate, Billy?
I graduated in '99.
Okay.
Virginia Beach?
Yes, Kempsville.
Yeah.
Nice. So you were right after us.
And so, yeah, I graduated from there. I started my first job in a hole in the wall, no lifts, on the ground, doing engines and tranny swaps. That was 16 years old after school. And from there, I went to a gas station, moved on to a brake shop, and I ended up at Priority Chevrolet in '99 when I graduated. I pretty much worked there for about 8 years and bounced around to the other GM dealers in the area for about a 4-year span. And I always made the comments to all the other areas as I went about how, you know, the work was at Priority. You know, it just had other reasons, you know. And I ended up back at Priority. I've been back there probably, I don't know, 7 years now. You know, now I came back as a technician, and within the first year of being there, they gave the shop to me. I run pretty much 42 technicians, 2 truck shops, a used car department. So it's a thriving business now. I mean, it's huge, the amount of work that's out there for the automotive field. It's just it's not what it used to be, like you were talking about with the technology.
Now that now you're in, you know, you just said 42 people. How are you getting more people? How are you finding more employees, getting people into the trade?
We have a scholarship program through ATI that we do. We're in good with the directors there. We were getting some from the local TCC college. Biggest problem with going to both of those is it's usually people coming out of the military. So if you've been in the military the past 4 or 5 years, you know, you get out, you know, you've got your income check from the military, and you want to start out doing quick lube and learn a field to work on cars, you know, you're not going to take $10, $11, $12 an hour for very long. You're going to want to move up and jump right into fixing cars. And it's like you said, you got the training courses that you got to go through online with virtual teachers and then hands-on classes. And that takes years to accomplish that. So this field is definitely a very technical field. It's no longer just putting brakes on and sealing up oil pans and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, everything's computerized. I mean, I look under the hood of the Duramax diesel. I said, nah, I'll take that to Billy.
Yeah, they're definitely different creatures.
So Billy, you came right out of. So you took. It sounds like you started when you were 13. Okay, and then you went to high school and you took VOTEC automotive classes, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's just. What did you have a? Is this a generational thing? Like, did you have a family member or a mentor?
Yeah, my dad was a Oldsmobile technician. In fact, he just retired probably 4 years ago from working on cars. He did it for 40-some years. So, and that's where it started. Our '85 GMC Jimmy needed an engine put in it, and I went out there and helped him build it. And he pretty much just pointed his fingers and said, tighten that to this spec and put that here and do that here. And I did all the work. That's where it started.
I bet he worked on a lot of those 442s, huh? Those Cutlasses.
Yeah. The olds. Yeah.
Yeah. They were good cars there. They were good cars. So this Priority, is it down at where is it located?
It's in Chesapeake, Virginia. It's in the Greenbrier area.
Okay. All right. So you're part of their management team now then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're part of, boy, you went from the, you jumped right in the fire there when you got back there to them, didn't you? Sounds like you were there, then you went and learned a lot of stuff at other places, then you brought the knowledge back, and then were a little bit more mature, maybe, or something.
For the longest time, Priority, of course, was like a team system. And of course, every dealership has their ways of handling their workload, you know, and I just felt that it was time for me to put my feelers out and see what the world was like, because I was only 22, 23 years old. So I was like, I'm gonna go out and see what other stuff is out there to offer. Of course, you go somewhere else in the automotive world, it's sad to say, but you usually make more money every time you move. It's just the way it works.
The trades work like that a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know?
So in essence, everybody's preaching more money. So I bounced around to a bunch of different dealers and just kind of realized that Priority was my niche. But my other problem was I didn't like their team system. Well, a new fixed ops director, Ray, came along and they called me and they were freaking out. Are you guys hiring? Blah, 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 and all this jazz. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but I'm telling you what, I've worked a dispatch system and it works. If you work the system, it works. You can make a lot of money. And these guys that, when I was there in 99, I saw, you know, I was probably 22 at the time, and I seen kids come out of Votech and go on the apprentice program at 17 years of age. And now I'm their boss. And these guys are making $100,000 a year. So, I mean, they are cranking out work.
Yeah, and that's all billable hours. So, Billy, that's what I was going to ask you. So, let's say you get this guy coming out from Votech. Just give us a broad salary gap as far as what they come in roughly a year making, and then the guys that are there, like you said, cranking out six figures. Because you got 42 people, so you got it all, you know, all the whole spectrum.
Yeah, it's all over. Now we do have a inmate program, which you may have heard of. It was on commercials during the Super Bowl, where it's either Chesapeake or Norfolk. I can't remember which one it is, but we hand selected groups of nonviolent felons, and they're near the ends of their sentence. They've had great behavior and all this jazz, and they went through and handpicked them, and they put them in each of our dealerships, like two to four people. And what we did was created a shop environment on our Toyota lot, and TCC actually taught classes there, taught these guys how to the basics, like pretty much like a Votech kind of. And they were there 3 days, and then at our dealership 3 days. And now that they're out, I have, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people I think that we've gotten, 6 of them so far were pretty much a success. And one of them, so let's take a felon that, as long as he does what he's supposed to when the program's done, because the program's only as good as what they do after they get out, right?
Right.
So some of these guys have taken it. If you're a felon and you get out of prison, you're going to make $25,000 a year, $15,000 a year, because you're not going to find anything unless you get in something like a trucking company or somebody that's willing to hire felons. There's not that much out there for them anymore. So I got guys making $50,000. You know what I mean? And the opportunity is strong. I mean, the business is there. I'm glad I got in it. It's been a good business to me. So
that's awesome.
I want to jump in. And cars are something that people have a passion for cars. I mean, there's just lots of avenues into it. I grew up near in Watkins Glen, New York, and was around racing my entire life. And the passion that you would see on display, the fans, all the interest in watching the work going on the cars, and I don't know if any of you have seen the movie. It's a recent movie, Ford versus Ferrari, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And just that it's magnetic. I mean, it just pulls people in. It's such an interesting field. And I just wanted to kind of I'll start with you, Sean. What was your draw? How would you describe what drew you to doing what you do with in mechanics?
Okay, for me, I've always been somebody that likes to work on things. Like I've souped up a lawnmower when I was a kid. I mean, you name it, I was doing something to it. Taking it apart, sometimes it would go back together right, sometimes it wouldn't. But you know, on the automotive side, you know, you have to have more of a finesse, and I'm more rugged, and just the heavy equipment side was perfect for me because you gotta rough to it, beat it, you know. And I just love it. You take a piece of equipment or something and that's completely broke, you troubleshoot it, you use all the skills you've learned, and then you turn around and you see it working again. And that's, to me, it's self-gratification, you know. And that was a big thing for me, and it's always been a big thing, is, you know, just the mechanics, the internals, just being around horsepower. I'm a racing guy. I love to be around high horsepower. The smell of fuel, it's a big thing for me. If that makes sense.
So go ahead, Chuck.
Well, I wanted to get Billy's take on what the draw was for him. It sounds like it started early.
Mine was the same lines, not necessarily like race cars, but it was more of off-roading. I was into the four-wheelers, going off-road, going in the mud, doing the rock crawling type stuff. That's just the stuff that the RC cars, you know, I'd build RC cars, all that kind of stuff just kind of was my niche. And pretty much it just kind of stuck with me all the way through my life. And now I'm just building and working on bigger RC cars, so to speak.
Dave, you had a question. What were you going to ask?
Well, something I didn't mean to cut Chuck off there, but so I got this straight. Sean, you're in Italy right now, right?
Yes, sir. I'm in Naples, well, outside of Naples, Italy. Yes, sir.
And that's you're like a GS employee then or something?
I am a GS. I was a blue collar employee for the government and worked my way up into management, and then now I'm somewhat in senior management.
Now, are you there forever, or is that just a duty station?
It's a duty station. It's a 3-year tour.
Okay.
For civilians. So
you've got some pasta on your chin. Some pasta on your chin.
Yeah. Right. So it's it's a great experience.
I bet. Do you speak Italian?
No. I've only been here since February. I'm still learning. A few words. Domani, you know.
He knows how to ask for wine or limoncello.
My kind of guy. I like the limoncello a lot. Hey, Billy.
Yeah.
So your 42 guys that you run in your industry, are they all in one location or different dealerships?
They're all in one location. Now, I have a main shop. It's all on the same property, but I have a main shop, and then I have around the back of that shop is another truck shop, and connected to the main shop is another truck shop and then I have a quick lube department in the whole main shop. So it's pretty much all on one lot.
I got you.
So it's all one central location.
A couple of years ago, I remember, I'm in the air conditioning business like Jeb, refrigeration, air conditioning. And I had customers maybe this was 6-7 years ago. All of a sudden, they all wanted their shops air conditioned because guys in the field were like, hey, they were like I can't get an air conditioned shop. I mean, I had owners telling me this. If I can't get an air conditioned shop, I'm just going to go down the road, go to work for these other guys. I mean, literally, they were calling us and saying, "Hey, can you air condition our shop?" Suddenly, we never had it. Yeah, so it seems like a different game. But what I got out of it, as a guy that's in a service business, refrigeration, air conditioning, and has service techs and stuff like that, I got out of it. They were trying to do as much to retain their good people, as they could, because they were explaining to me, how much training went into this, and how much dealership provided training there was, like specific to whether it's Chevrolet, Mercedes, BMW, Audi, whatever it is. Is that pretty much across the board? Would you say that the training, people that come into your industry, like the newbies that come in there, they have some experience, but they need some training. You guys deliver a lot of training?
Yeah, the training. I have a technician that we told him that we'll pay you the hours that it pays to do the training. Every course, say it pays 1.2 hours to do the course. Well, we'll take your hourly rate and we'll pay you that. And you can do it at home, or you can do it on your lunch break. You can do it after work, whenever. So we just keep track of those hours. Now, for General Motors, it's 119 hours of just web courses, just staring at a computer screen, watching video, clicking next, and listening to a computer talk. And then it moves on to VCTs, where it's an instructor like we are, actually doing kind of like a hands-on class in front of you, showing you how things work. And then after, there's probably 40 hours of that. And then you have, in every category, your steering, your brakes, your body electrical, your transmission, your rear ends, all of the different engines you have different hands-on classes for all of that. And you go to various colleges all over the nation, and we send you and pay for everything. And it took, if you were available to get in the classes, do everything without having to wait for a seat, you could probably have it all done in about a year to a 2-year span. But you've got guys, let's say you work at Ford and you've done all their training. You've been there for 10, 15 years. And then you switch to Chevrolet. You now have to start over and do all of our training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really think there should be some kind of meeting in the middle.
Yeah, because the basics are the basics, right? I mean, the basics are the basics. You might have nuances within the individual manufacturers, but air conditioning on a Ford truck, the air conditioning principles are the same as on a Chevy car.
Pretty much.
The actuation might be a little bit different, but the principle is the same. Is really what you're saying. Well, that's pretty interesting stuff. Do you have a program there where you you seem like a young? How old are you, Billy?
I'll be 40 in October.
Hey, you're a young guy for doing all you can do. All you've done. Congratulations. Do you have like a mentorship program there where like older guys look after younger guys or something like that?
Yes. It's not really a mentorship. I have we have pretty much 2 shop foremans. I'm the shop foreman, and because there's so many people, it got to a point to where so many people need assistance. The lane needs assistance. And then I have my managers that need me. It got to a point to where I wasn't effective in the shop. So we brought on another employee that used to work there. He went to the shipyard doing machinist stuff. We brought him back, and he's like a assistant shop foreman. The guys that I have that are A-techs, I can pretty much go to my dispatcher and take any ticket out of there and give it to them and not worry. They're going to get it done. Then I have the guys that I call them like a advanced quick lube. They do my alignments. They do all my recall programs, putting on recall parts, stuff like that. Nothing, no real
diagnostic,
in-depth diagnostics to it, to kind of get their feel of going through the computer systems, getting them into tearing the car kind of apart and going off of the repair procedures and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And then I slowly start testing them and giving them more things, so on and so on. Now, this is where Gordy steps in, and if they get bogged down and they have questions, he's there to help them. And then once they progress past that, like some of these, the people from the inmate program, they have gone beyond that. We start throwing some real diag at them. And of course, I don't want them to drown. So Gordy gets to spend his time down there and just kind of hold their hand and walk them through it. And it seems to work out. Not a real mentorship program, but I have somebody there that is there specifically for troubleshooting with the technician.
Yeah, it sounds like you know your employee base, and you know which ones are the A, the B's, the C's, the D's, whatever.
Yeah, you got to know that, because if it's a dispatch system, it could go south fast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sean, what about you in Italy? How are y'all running that shop over there?
So for the locations, it's usually local nationals that are working on the vehicles. We have pretty much their, as you would say, is like a technician A. Pretty much anything that comes in, they're given the ticket to the repair order and they repair it. We kind of go off of the timelines, the general timelines that with the industry standards to give us a base. So they're not just running tickets in the hole.
And for those at home, that's basically like a call job. Like if it says it's going to take 4.5 hours, that's what you're starting with, right?
Yeah, that's
the book.
Exactly. So it's making sure, and the big picture is that we're good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You can't just sit there and work on something and hide. I don't know. But, for the workforce that I have in the different countries, they're awesome. There is certain things with the newer equipment that's coming out. They don't have the technology or the training. So that's something moving forward. We're coming up with requirements and way to get them sped up to the training. Like one of the programs I have a big part of managing is fire equipment, fire apparatus. And you have to, be certified at emergency vehicle technician certifications to work on it. So that's something I'm working through to have somebody train them to get them up to speed to become an emergency vehicle technician, because you have different levels and what you can do and things like that with equipment, and fire apparatus.
Constantly paying and for new training and everything as well for your employees.
Oh, absolutely. When I was in the States as the superintendent, I had roughly 1,100 vehicles in my fleet. And I had, at that time, close to 17 mechanics. And anything that was coming out that was new, I was working with upper senior management, trying to get funding to send them to, send them to schools, or having a trainer come in to teach them, or anything, just so that you can keep the technology there so that they don't get outdated. That's the whole thing with everything that changes yearly. You have to stay on top. And go ahead.
I was in engineering on ships, and had both mechanics and electronic types working side by side. So they're somewhat specialized, and I was always refereeing the battle between it's mechanical, no, it's electrical, electronic. But do you have that specialization between those categories, or it would seem to me that people need to have a holistic understanding of the vehicles that they're working on?
Yes. So it's pretty much it's for the classification of vehicle that they're going to work on. So everything's broken down by size. You'll have, I have actually technicians that are automotive mechanics, and you have heavy equipment mechanics, and then they'll just work on certain pieces of equipment. Well, then when it's specialty equipment, aerial stuff like that, I send them, we'll send them to schools. But yes, you do have certain things that where it's like, oh no, this is out of my realm, or this is not in my scope of work to do. but I've been very fortunate with the workforce I have had that worked under me. They were always hungry and they wanted to learn. They always wanted to work outside their normal realm because they didn't want to send things out in town. They're like, hey, we need to fix this ourselves. We need to figure it out. What do we need to do? You know, we want to get training, boss. How can we get this training? Stuff like that.
Sean, is your workforce military based, or are they civilian Americans, or are they national people from other places?
Okay, so
who's doing this work? Yeah.
Okay, so over here in Europe, it's a combination. So you'll have civilians, civil servants that work for the government. Then you'll have local nationals that work for the government, and you have military. So it's
when you say the government, the United States government.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So it's so I work for the command that we have all the CBs under. So you'll have a contingency force at each base that has CBs and, you know, the construction mechanics and stuff like that. But and they work in the shops too, of doing basic stuff for us. You know, different locations like the oil changes, stuff like that. You know, but it's, you know, you try to cross train a lot of people. You know, I try to cross train as much as possible to keep the as much work in house instead of contracting it out. Because I look at the, you know, the longevity of the employee. You know, and knowledge is power. You know, and the more knowledge you have, the more of an asset you are. And that's always been a big thing for me.
A pride thing too, I think.
Yes, sir. It's a very prideful.
So Billy, is there specialization in your mechanics, technicians that work on your vehicles, as far as difference between mechanical versus electrical, electronic?
Not really. Pretty much they all, for the most part, do it all. The only time there's any type of specialization is, of course, when it goes to diesel. Like the diesels go to my truck shop. And if it's a training repair, I have a handful of guys that go into transmissions. So, I mean, other than that, it's really not specialized. It all pretty much goes off of their general knowledge.
Oh, it would seem to me that in order to be able to understand what's going on, I mean, we've always been able to go to a mechanic and have, you know, that full understanding of what's going on with the vehicle, but things have gotten so, you know, have changed so much and have become, I mean, the breadth and depth of knowledge required to troubleshoot would seem bigger.
It's literally, the best way I could sum it up is my career is through the change as the cars grew. It's like people my age saw the video game systems come out, the cell phones come out, the pagers and all that. Same concept. I literally watched the cars go from carburetors all the way up to direct injection the way it is now. So as it changed, my general knowledge grew with it. So now these kids coming out of ATI and Bowtech, you know, they see it on the internet and they fiddle with it at home. But unless they're really teaching themselves computer electronics and software programming and how to deal with all that and how a computer functions and controls different components, the basic operation and description, operation theory of how cars, you know, electronics work, without that knowledge, you're lost.
Billy, that's one of the things that you know, of course I parallel everything to the air conditioner refrigeration industry because that's what I'm in, and these two industries have a lot of similarities. I mean, I remember 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, people would buy a car and they would never take the car back to a dealership. Okay. Back then they could take it to their local gas station. And frankly, I remember when dealerships didn't have a really robust reputation, okay, for service. It was all about sales, okay? And the car industry and the truck industry too went through major changes like in the last 25 years. I've watched it happen. where I always used to equate it in our industry. Jeb will know what I'm talking about. It was almost like the oil company that sold oil. They sold oil. They serviced oil burners. Servicing oil burners really wasn't their profit center. Selling the oil was. They just did it as a necessity. Back then, car dealers, service was just kind of a necessity. We got to do it. A lot of it was warranty stuff and stuff like that. The auto industry seems to have taken a huge turn in the last 20 years in the level of service. Like, I'm impressed when you know, I got a lot of trucks and stuff, and I'm impressed whenever I have to deal or have dealt with the automobile dealers, and their level of service has just totally changed. I've no, you know, their level from the time you walk in the door, literally somebody greets you now. They want to reassure you, make you feel comfortable. I think with that being said, I'd call it a very secure industry, but the thing that makes it even more secure for somebody thinking about this as a career is the things that you just talked about. Because let's face it, you know, 25, 30 years ago, I could go outside, pop the hood, you know, I knew how to take a distributor cap off. I knew how to do some timing. I know how to change my plugs, do this stuff. You know, nowadays, the average guy like me, okay, that's not an automobile mechanic, isn't doing that anymore. So I would think that's a very secure thing for you guys, right? Career-wise?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know for a fact I got guys that are fully 100% trained. They make top pay, and they know they can walk out the door and go to any dealership they want and get top pay.
Right.
The only thing that keeps them is, of course, is we have buku work.
You guys sound like a well-run operation there. It just seems to me, and like, I know, again, the refrigeration and air conditioning industry, I always compare everything that ours is getting much more technical. Jeb will tell you that, you know, yours is digital now. There's all sorts of stuff, you know, the meters that you need to work on it. You can't go pick them up at Home Depot or anything like that. They're very much specific to whatever the automobile, you know, either Sean's doing or you're doing. It seems like, right? I mean, even the tools are specific.
Oh, yeah.
I was fortunate when Sean went to Italy, he left me his toolbox.
Oh man,
I just can't imagine I can't imagine the amount of tools these guys have to have, and the amount of specific knowledge on the meters and things just to troubleshoot the electronics.
When I took over as the manager and I took my toolbox home, in my garage I've got about $27,000 worth of tools in the toolbox in there.
And that's easy. That's easy.
The Snap-on guys loving you.
They love y'all. Oh, no money? Oh, no. Just sign here. We got this.
Yeah.
Well, Billy failed to mention, even though they're in his garage, he's still paying for them monthly.
Yeah.
No, they've been paid off.
Okay.
They've been paid off.
Sean, what's your it's kind of off the beaten track, and we want to get back to our subject. By the way, you guys know, I think our subject here on Blue Collar Green Pockets is all about careers that you get into without a bachelor's degree, you know, because we have a belief that college is great for some people. And we also have a belief that the trades are a great option, and the military are great options for people coming out of school. And your industry also as a second career, even. Like if somebody was in a career already, they didn't like sitting in a cubicle or something, you know, and they're mechanically inclined, they might want to come into the automobile industry. So for the, you know, 38, 40-year-old guy out there or girl, they might want to get into something else. Your industry might be a good one for them. What do you say? And speaking of that, do you have a lot of women in this industry? Are there a lot of women in the automobile industry, Billy?
Actually, I have one lady technician right now. She's part of my night crew. I'm getting ready to switch her over to day crews. In fact, she was a Marine, and she got out of the Marines, and she started with her GI Bill with ATI.
I've had one female work for me that was on the automotive side too.
Good experience, I bet too, right?
I've had a great experience.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen that in my industry too.
Yeah,
Easy.
Jeb,
You're in
go ahead, mute.
position.
You need to go mute.
Easy.
I've worked with a few lady technicians, and some were okay, and some were just, you need to go. This is not for you. You know, they're there for different reasons, not really to work on cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
But it's not a field that women couldn't excel in, as I've heard.
No, I know somebody at a different dealership that I worked with years ago, and she stuck with it. And actually, I know two of them. They both stuck with it. They've been in the business for probably about 10, 15 years now. And they're A-techs, and they're good at what they do.
Well, we've heard from other trades that the women are excelling because they're so much better at detail and organized.
Yes.
They do. I do catch them. You will see a woman rotate the tires and fill the air and then wipe the rim off. And you will not catch a guy wiping the rim off.
Wiping rim off. That's very interesting. If you had a kind of a, well, Sean, what are you going to do next when you leave there? This is intriguing me. Your job intrigues me over there. You got pasta all over your face all the time, chili down your shirt, and all this stuff.
Yeah. I want to go to the next echelon up, overseeing more equipment in a headquarters level. That's my next. There's a place in Norfolk, Virginia, that I have my eye on in 3 to 5 years. So it's a 3-year tour, but you can extend out to 5 years. I have return rights back to my last job as a superintendent, transportation superintendent, but we'll probably get a promotion out of this.
So what kind of pitch would you give? Let's pretend you're going to talk to a high school class right now, okay? And you were talking to that high school class, within the realm of the industry that you're in. What kind of pitch would you give these guys as far as your industry goes? Not only for exactly what you do, but I'm always intrigued by industries that have a lot of different avenues to them. Like an automotive guy might end up, with a parts manufacturer or with a wholesaler or with an engine, with Caterpillar or with whatever. What kind of speech would you give them?
So one thing that I've said to numerous people, because I had apprenticeship program students that worked for me as a supervisor, but one of the main things is get a trade, get something that is yours, because nobody can take it away. And that's a big thing. Regardless of, like, I have a Class A CDL. So if times really got bad, I could drive a truck. I've worked on from one end to the other end of everything. So, and that's a big thing, is have a skill set that you can use for the rest of your life. And the financial reward is endless. And that's a big thing, because you can write your own check. Just like, Billy working in dealerships. I mean, them guys are making good money. I mean, I worked on the Caterpillar side, and I was field service. I was 20 some years old, banging down 6 figures a year with a high school degree. And that's a big thing.
Nice. Yeah, it's a nice toys then, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
What about you, Billy? What would you say if you walked into a high school, and you probably have, maybe you have. I don't know if you have or not.
Yeah, I've gone into, like, with our scholarship program at ATI. I've sat down with the people in there, and pretty much I tell it to them like this: if this is a trade that you want to get into, then you need to go into it with your mom used to tell you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, if you're going to jump into automotive, you need to put all your eggs in one basket, and you need to learn the trade. If you're going to do AC work, you need to learn AC work. You got to live it and breathe it. That's just the way it is. And when it comes time to learning how to do it, just like a math program in your book in high school, you know, you look at all the math problems, but that page before it shows you the description and the operation and how to figure out all those math problems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need to learn that first page and then go tackle the second page. And that's how automotive works. The car comes in with a problem. You have a computer with all of the knowledge right there. That'll teach you all the info. Now you need to take your basic instincts, so to speak. Not everybody's got them. Your basic instincts, and put them to use. Like I said, you know, with putting all your eggs in that one basket, devoting all of your manpower into learning automotive, you know, basic engine theory, electrical, please electrical. And because that's just where it's at today. You know, you need to really learn a trade. You can't just kind of bounce around. You need to focus on an area and just kind of run with it.
If they don't have access to like a VOTEC or an auto shop in school, what are some of the ways that you would suggest that they can go about trying to take advantage of to set themselves up for success in the auto repair industry?
The biggest downfall with doing that, the next step would be like the ATIs, the what's the other one out in Arizona? They're all over the place. All these automotive technical colleges that teach the HVAC, the welding, you know, get into one of those trade colleges. They can be expensive, but if you go in there and you do the program, I've had people come out and they're halfway decent, and then they get in the dealership atmosphere and they know the basic concept of what they need to do. And that's the general consensus that we look for, is they have the drive and the general consensus to dig into the problem they're being faced with on the automotive side of it.
So for folks to get some exposure to, you know, I'm thinking back maybe when Dave and I coming up, we everybody had exposure to what was under the hood of the car, you know, and you know, some basic auto mechanics, right, Dave? But these days it's just too complicated. You know, it's harder to get that exposure. But I think the passion for cars and mechanics is still there. How can folks, you know, maybe come in and, you know, spend some time watching what mechanics do and see if it is something that they're interested in?
Yeah, is it like an entry level, like sweeping floors, you know, stocking shelves, anything like that either of y'all have available?
Internship for high schoolers or anything?
A program I was part of, we had an apprenticeship program that we were taking, and it was working with TCC, and they would actually, you know, get picked. You know, we go through our selection panel, and we would pick a certain amount that would be on either the automotive side or the heavy equipment side. For all the trades for the government, they had an apprenticeship program on for the command I worked for. And it was pretty much that. They came in, they had a certain core classes they had to take from the community college and keep it at a certain level. The government would pay for it, and then they worked, you know, in the trade that they were in as a helper. And that's a 4-year program. And it was a great thing. And I've seen a lot of success of really good technicians come out of it, because you peer, you know, what we would do is we would put them with different mechanics every 6 months. So they were, you know, you're going to have certain people that teach different ways, and you put them with different people and they're learning different aspects of everything, and you pick up a lot of knowledge from it. And a lot of times we would have somebody that is really like, we picked 2 people out of Norfolk VOTEC that a couple years ago, probably 8-9 years ago, that we brought in, and they were still in high school working for the government. And, you know, green is all get out, like barely could even pop the hood on a car, but they are now very seasoned mechanics. So it's, you know, there's a lot of success. And then some of them you do see, it's not for them. And they,
no harm,
you know,
no foul.
resign.
They tried it, didn't cost them $100,000 to go to a 4-year college.
Exactly.
And they realize quick, right?
Exactly. And it's been good from my perspective. I've had a lot of good results.
Yeah, over my career so far, the VOTEC program, in my eyes, worked.
Yes.
Everybody that, for the most part, that went to the VOTEC program and was put into a dealership with an apprentice, because that's how the program worked. You were put with an apprentice.
Yes.
You know, and it worked. Some of the technicians that I saw come into my dealership on the VOTEC program, they are now flat rate technicians, full fledged, and they turn and burn. They're good at what they do.
I think we have a passion, a passion to do it once we were accepted into the VOTEC program, and it's opened up so many doors for me.
When we were in tech, I remember that was the hardest class to get into because there was so many people that wanted to do automotive. Is it still full like that as far as the waiting list and just everyone trying to get to that one class? I know I wanted to be in it before I took HVAC.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard class to get into.
So maybe they need to open that up, get some more schools doing that, right?
Yeah,
I would agree.
Fact, we were working on possibly getting in the Richmond area. We have a GM tech college that closed down, so now I'm having to send them to Charlotte and Maryland to get their training. So we're working with ATI and getting an actual GM representative in that ATI building to possibly start doing GM training there, and that'll help all of our GM dealers in this area, because the biggest thing is getting people trained on the product.
Right.
Well, they said that word again, Chuck.
Yeah, I heard it. The P word.
P word.
Passion.
Passion. Because every week when we have every week, we've had some really great guests on here, and you guys are awesome. And but every time it's passion. It seems like to be the common denominator for people that get into something, that didn't go get a bachelor's degree. They got into something that they really loved, and then they succeeded in it because they really liked it and had a passion for it.
And they're making great money.
Yeah, it really wasn't work. It's not work if you enjoy it every day, right? I mean, every day is not perfect, but it sounds like both you guys really enjoy what you do.
Yeah, you can tell the ones that have the passion and the ones that are just trying something.
Mm-hmm. That's the difference. That's the separator, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. It seems like it.
Sean, is it coffee time?
Sean, is that cappuccino or what do you got there?
It's a espresso.
What'd you have for dinner? Did you have a linguine with white clam? I mean, what'd you have last night?
Dinner was hours ago, man. It's 2 a.m. there now. But
they eat 7 meals. They eat 7 meals a day over there.
That's why he went over there. He loves it.
I cooked the steak on the grill. Come on now.
Italian steak, right?
Yes.
What part of Italy are you in?
I'm south of Naples in a town called Monte de Proccia. I'm right on the beach.
On the Amalfi Coast there, is it?
Now,
not far from the Amalfi Coast.
He just got to the beach. He's been in lockdown for the first 3 months. Well, were you there a
you
month?
had COVID there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you there before you got locked down?
Roughly 3 weeks.
Jeez.
And so I was stuck in the hotel on the Navy base for almost 4 months to the day, and I moved into my house last Wednesday. So I've been in this house for almost a week. So it's been a journey, but hey, it's an adventure. I'm okay with it. I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate, with the career path I have. I never thought after getting out of the Marine Corps that I would be getting paid to live in Italy and work. It's just, it's just a great experience.
As a Marine, what's your favorite flavor of crayon?
Orange.
Orange? It's a good choice.
Yeah. I was waiting for it.
I'm an Air Force guy. That's all we got.
For everybody,
Yeah.
for
Everybody makes
everybody,
fun of us.
That's our IT department you hear.
yeah, for the new people that have never watched before, for you people out there that have never watched, Jeb is a ventriloquist. He talks in 2 different languages. Now we have our guy Greg Gary. He's right back there by Jeb. Wave your hand. Put your hand out there.
He
There it
keeps
is.
our program going because we are not computer people.
He is the nuts and bolts behind the operation here.
Nice.
Does a good job. Okay, closing out, Sean.
Yeah, real quick.
Closing out. Give us your elevator closing out on why people should get in your industry or at least consider it.
For me, well, I think it's a good industry to be in. You know, the number one, as I said before, is you could write your own ticket. You can, you know, set your own goals. You can make your great money, a very honest and reputable living. And you can barter with people. I mean, there's a lot of great things that come out of being a mechanic.
And a high
You know,
demand,
being
right?
in the trade, it's a very high demand, and it's a great thing. It's a great trade. You know, it's like I've said before, it's opened up a lot of doors for me, and I've made a really, really good living with it.
It sounds like you've taken it, but you've taken advantage of a lot of opportunities. You sound like a guy that has to me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you've taken advantage. Billy Harrell, give us yours.
Sure.
Tell
what?
Give us your elevator pitch. Your last chance to get people to come into your industry.
Oh, it's like I said, I mean, I've got guys that I've watched grow up in this business and I've watched them succeed. I mean, the money some of these guys make, it's impeccable. The business is there. I mean, like I said, back in the day, the automotive business was just an engine, transmission, and nuts and bolts. Now it's literally video games and electronics, and as long as you got serious drive and hustle, you can make some serious money in this business. I can attest to that.
Without getting a bachelor's degree, correct?
Exactly, 100%. I have a high school diploma.
But
Me too.
Lots of education. Lots of education, right?
Yeah, a high school diploma with 2 years of VOTEC, and I ran with the career as I grew with it. You know, and that's just how you make it.
But make no mistake, the good techs aren't dummies, right?
No.
And it sounds like the education can't stop. I mean, you have to be learning all of the time.
Yep, you're always learning. I learn new things every day.
It's awesome. All right. Well,
Me too. If you're not trying, you're not learning.
we're gonna close it out of that. Sean needs a limoncello before he goes back to sleep.
No, I think somebody just put a plate of meatballs behind him.
Pizza time.
Well, I just want to say thanks to both of you. Sean, thanks for your service, obviously, in the Marine Corps. Billy, thanks for all you're doing. You guys sound like you got great career paths here, and it sounds like if you were somebody that a young guy ran into, okay, and wanted some good advice, you'd be 2 guys that I would want to listen to if I were a young guy. I can tell you that.
And if anybody's got questions, reach out. We can get you a hold of these guys. No problem. We just met Billy tonight, but Troy Clifton's on here. He hooked us up with Billy. So thanks, Troy.
Guy.
Yeah, that guy. I figured I'd throw him a bone. He watched the whole time just to hear his name, so I made it at the end.
Are we still in the air?
We're still going. We got a minute. Awesome. Well, with all that said, we're gonna say tune in next week. We'll put it out what we're gonna do, and till then, enjoy Blue Collar Green Pockets.
Chuck, what do you got?
Great show. Really appreciate you guys coming on with